The sound of fingernails scraping the tile floor at the train station that night still haunts me to this day. My name is Linda. I'm an ordinary office worker living with my family in the suburbs. Since it was quite far, I had to take the bus to the city every day for work. That night, I got off work later than usual because I had to finish a rushed project. When I ran to the station, the last bus had already departed. With no other option, I walked to the central train station to catch the last night train to the suburbs. The train station at night was strangely empty. No staff, no passengers. Everything was suffocatingly silent. I sat down on the waiting bench, starting to feel a bit uneasy. A little while later, I heard a strange noise. I stood up and looked around, but there was no one. I told myself it must have just been the wind. When I turned around, I froze. At the other end of the station, something was crawling toward me. It was the upper half of a woman's body, her long black hair covering most of her face. She had no legs and used her bony hands to drag herself forward, leaving a long, dark trail of blood across the tiles. The woman crawled towards me, one drag at a time, with two arms covered in scratches oozing dark blood. I panicked and ran, but I didn't know which direction I was going. My legs no longer felt like mine, stumbling and shaking, making me trip again and again. But I couldn't stop. The woman was hot on my heels. Just as I thought I would die there, the night train suddenly appeared. I collapsed to the floor, all strength drained from my body. A few weeks later, I accidentally read an old newspaper article that said this train station once had a young girl who was harmed. While escaping, she fell onto the tracks and was run over and cut in half by a passing train. Since then, her ghost has lingered at the train station, seeking revenge for her tragic fate.
Have you ever left a bad review for an order? I never thought that a bad online review could drag me into hell. Hello, my name is Emily, 25 years old, a horror fiction writer for a renowned publishing company. I had written countless terrifying stories, but I never imagined that one day I would become the character in a real-life horror tale. It all started last month when I ordered dinner from a small, newly opened restaurant near my apartment building. Starving, I eagerly opened the food container, but the moment I did, a foul, nauseating smell hit me, making me rush to the bathroom to vomit. Even more horrifying, inside the container was something that looked like a decomposing human finger. Terrified, I immediately threw the food into the trash and left a 1-star review for the restaurant. I had no idea that this was just the beginning of a nightmare. Shortly after, I received a message from the restaurant owner. I can refund your money, Kyle, but it will cost you your life in exchange. I shivered at the words on my screen. Was this some sick joke or a real threat? My building had no security. So if the restaurant owner really wanted revenge, he could come straight to my apartment. After thinking carefully, I decided to stay overnight in the room of Helen, my colleague who lived upstairs, to avoid trouble. I had a camera installed outside my door so I could monitor my apartment through my phone. Looking at the screen, I saw a tall man wearing black sportswear and a baseball cap standing in front of my door. I wanted to tell Helen, but she was too focused on texting someone, seemingly unaware of my distress. Suddenly, the man looked directly at the camera, mumbling something under his breath. A large, deep scar ran down his cheek, making him look terrifying. He licked his lips, smirked with satisfaction, and then made a throat-slitting gesture before turning away. I trembled as I stared at my phone screen. What was he planning? I turned to Helen and realized she had been staring at me the whole time. Her gaze gave me an eerie feeling, as if something sinister was about to happen. I forced a smile and asked, "Helen, is something wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" Helen smiled slightly and said,
"Oh, it's nothing."
I nervously reached for my glass of water but accidentally spilled it on a notebook on the table. Hurriedly, I picked up the notebook to dry it, but a photo slipped out and fell to the floor. When I bent down to pick it up, my heart nearly stopped. In the picture was Helen smiling brightly next to the very same man who had stood outside my door. A horrifying realization struck me. Helen was the one who had recommended this restaurant to me. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Helen glanced at me before standing up to answer it. Sensing that something was wrong, I quickly opened Facebook and secretly started a live stream before hiding my phone. Helen soon returned, followed by the man from earlier. I placed my phone on the table and looked at them in fear. "Helen, who is this?" Helen smiled slightly and said,
"This is my boyfriend, the owner of the restaurant you rated 1 star.
I stammered. "What do you mean? Did you plan all of this?" Helen burst into laughter and said,
That's right. I hate your fake perfection. You took everything that should have been mine."
Then she suddenly slapped me hard across the face. A burning pain spread across my cheek, making my head spin. Helen pointed at me in anger and shouted,
"I was supposed to be the best writer. How dare a newcomer like you surpass me?"
Before I could react, Helen grabbed my collar and repeatedly struck me in the face. Each blow landed heavily, making my head spin as my vision gradually blurred from the throbbing pain. I struggled to stand and asked, "If you hate me so much, why did you let me stay here?" Helen laughed hysterically and said,
"Because I wanted to see you suffer, to watch you beg for mercy right in front of me."
Enraged, I shouted, "Keep dreaming! You're just a failure! Don't blame others for your incompetence!" The restaurant owner suddenly lunged forward and punched me hard in the stomach, sending me crashing onto the floor. Before I could recover, he pulled out a knife and slashed a deep cut across my shoulder. I screamed in pain, clutching my wound as warm blood soaked through my thin shirt. Helen stood over me laughing.
"Emily, beg me, and I'll let you die painlessly."
Through gritted teeth, I spat back, "I will never beg a loser like you." Furious, Helen snatched the knife from her boyfriend's hand and lunged at me. Just as I thought it was the end for me, a loud, urgent knocking sounded at the door. Helen froze, turning her face toward the door, silently observing the commotion outside. Sensing my chance, I immediately sprang up, kicked Helen away, and sprinted toward the door. Standing outside was Lucy, my close colleague from work, her face filled with panic. Lucy quickly caught me and asked worriedly,
"Emily, are you okay?"
I gasped, "Help me! Helen wants to kill me!" Before I could explain further, Helen shouted angrily,
"Don't think you can escape from here."
She gripped the knife tightly and charged at us, her bloodshot eyes filled with madness. Lucy and I froze in fear as Helen's twisted expression made her look like a completely different person. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind us. Police officers had arrived. It turned out that when Lucy saw my live stream, she immediately called the police and rushed to my place. Helen and the restaurant owner were swiftly restrained and taken away before they could fight back. I let out a sigh of relief, but as the adrenaline faded, pain overwhelmed my body. Exhausted, I lost consciousness and sank into darkness. When I woke up, I found myself in the hospital, my wounds carefully bandaged. This nightmare was finally over, but the scars it left behind would haunt me forever.
After 5 years as a delivery worker, I never thought a single order could cost me my life. That night, close to midnight, I received an order for 2 servings of chicken rice. The delivery address was a house on the outskirts of the city. Even though I had a bad feeling about it, I had not received a single order all day, so I gritted my teeth and accepted it. When I arrived, I saw an old, desolate house standing alone in the middle of the woods. A cold gust of wind blew against me, sending shivers down my spine. I knocked on the door, but no one answered, so I took out my phone and called the customer.
The door is unlocked. Bring it inside.
I hesitated, but pushed the door open. The musty smell immediately filled my nose, making me grimace. The air inside was cold, as if no one had lived there for a long time.
I have your delivery. Is anyone here?
At that moment, the sound of a knife chopping down on wood, thick, heavy, and sharp, resounded from a room inside. I jumped, my heart pounding. Carefully, I tiptoed toward the door, and the scene before me made my stomach churn. A man was chopping a human arm. On the table, severed body parts were laid out in pieces. I screamed in terror. The thick, metallic scent of blood choked my throat, and I collapsed onto the floor.
You harmed someone. I have to call the police. Stay and help me, or I'll put you on this table next.
My entire body froze at his words. Fear forced me to turn back and help him pack the body parts into black bags. Each time my hands touched the cold, lifeless flesh, it felt as if thousands of insects were crawling over my skin. After we finished cleaning up, he ordered me to dispose of the black bags. Trembling, I carried them to a deserted riverside, tossing each one into the water before hurrying away. But as soon as I turned around, the man was already behind me, gripping a knife tightly, his cold eyes staring into mine.
You did well, but you still have to die. I did everything you asked. Please let me go. Let you go? You've seen everything. You can't live. I promise I won't tell anyone. Just let me go. The only way to keep a secret is to take it to the grave.
With that, he lunged at me. I dodged just in time, the blade grazing my arm and burning my skin. Enraged, he raised the knife again, his grip tightening as he thrust forward. On reflex, I grabbed his wrist, stopping the blade just inches from my face. His strength was terrifying. I used all my force to shove him back, making him stumble. Seizing the moment, I grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at his head. He cried out in pain, clutching his head as he staggered. I sprinted to my car, speeding away as I called the police. But by the time they arrived, the man had disappeared without a trace. A few days later, I returned home only to be greeted by a horrifying sight. A bloodied human arm lay in the middle of my floor. On the wall, a message was scrawled in dark red blood. You will have to disappear.
Did you really think you could escape me?
I spun around, locking eyes with the man. He aimed a gun at my head.
Please, I'll give you anything you want. I want your life.
In that instant, I grabbed his wrist, struggling to wrestle the gun upward. A gunshot rang out. The bullet struck the ceiling, sending dust falling around us. I jolted, loosening my grip, and he kicked my stomach hard, sending me crashing to the floor. I tried to push myself up, but before I could, his heavy foot slammed down onto my chest, pinning me against the cold tiles.
Don't waste your strength. You won't escape.
At that moment, my hand brushed against my phone in my pocket. Without hesitation, I yanked it out and hurled it at his face. With every ounce of strength left in me, I scrambled up, shoving him aside as I dashed toward the door. But before I could get far, a gunshot rang out. A searing pain shot through my leg, and I collapsed onto the floor.
You little rat. Let's see where you'll run now.
I refused to give up. Gritting my teeth, I crawled forward. Another shot rang out, piercing my other leg. I screamed in agony as my body convulsed and the world blurred.
Say goodbye to the world.
Suddenly, the door burst open with a loud bang. The man froze, eyes widening in shock. Before he could react, a bullet shot straight into his chest. Dark red blood slowly spread across his shirt. Police officers swarmed in, surrounding the house. I exhaled shakily, my body going limp as I shut my eyes in relief. It was finally over. I was rushed to the hospital, my legs soaked in blood. Though the killer was dead, the memory of that night haunted me every second of my life. The images replayed in my mind like a never-ending horror film with no escape.
Have you ever had hair extensions? My friend tried it once and it became her nightmare. This is Lucy, my best friend. Since that incident, she never dared to grow her hair long again. The story began when we were in our sophomore year of university. One day, Lucy and I were walking down the street when we were drawn to a small hair salon. The atmosphere inside gave me an inexplicable sense of gloom. The walls were adorned with photos of many girls sporting different hairstyles. My eyes stopped on a picture of a girl with unevenly chopped short hair, smiling at me. I was horrified and stepped closer to stare at it.
What's wrong?
I pointed at the picture for Lucy to see, but when I looked again, it was just a girl with a neat short haircut.
Those are all our former customers. You can also choose a style like theirs.
Their hair looks so beautiful and natural.
Of course, all the wigs here are made from real hair. You can check the samples over here.
She led us to a shelf displaying various wigs.
Sophia, this really is real hair. It feels completely different from the ones in other salons.
She carefully browsed through the options before deciding on a long, silky wig. As I touched the wig Lucy had chosen, I suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. A faint yet distinct smell of blood mixed with perfume wafted into my nose. I was about to warn Lucy, but the salon owner quickly ushered her into a chair to begin the extension process. That night, after getting the extensions, Lucy started having strange dreams. In her dreams, she saw many people standing at the foot of her bed, repeatedly whispering. Suddenly, a girl rushed toward her, holding a pair of scissors and frantically cutting Lucy's hair.
Give me back my hair. Give me back my hair.
The nightmares kept repeating, leaving Lucy increasingly terrified. Many nights, she felt as if someone was yanking her hair from behind, even though she was alone. One day, I visited Lucy's place and found her sitting in front of the mirror, brushing her hair repeatedly. With every stroke of the brush, strands of hair kept falling onto the floor. Lucy, why is your hair falling out so much?
It's not. I feel like I have even more hair now.
Look at the floor! Only then did Lucy panic. She ran her fingers through her hair and a large chunk fell out, tangling in her hand. She turned to the mirror, horrified to see her hair in uneven patches, some short, some long. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The next morning, we rushed back to the salon to have the extensions removed. But when we arrived, we were stunned. The place was crowded with people, gathered to witness something shocking. Excuse me, what's going on here?
I heard the owner of the salon kidnapped people, cut their hair to sell, and then killed them.
At that moment, the police escorted the salon owner out of the shop. She flinched slightly when she saw us, then quickly averted her gaze. As the crowd gradually dispersed, I looked into the shop and was horrified to see my own picture hanging on the wall. But the photo had been altered. Someone had deliberately changed Lucy's face. Lucy, when did you take this picture?
I never took any photos here.
After that day, Lucy's behavior changed drastically. She would sit blankly in front of the mirror, then suddenly grab a pair of scissors and frantically chop off her own hair. Lucy now looked exactly like the shadowy figures she had described from her nightmares. From that moment on, I never saw her grow her hair long again. Though many years have passed, whenever we talk about it, we can't help but shudder.